Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Forever Bristol City podcast. It's a review of the game against the Spanish team, Real Valladolid, if that's the right pronunciation. It finished City 4, the Spanish team 0. I'm joined today by regulars Dave Tubby, who's over in Spain, Neil Sutton, who sat next to me here in the Clevedon studios, and I'm delighted to welcome for the first time on Forever Bristol City podcast, Tom of the Robin's Nest. We've all admired the content that he's been putting out over the last couple of months since he entered the fray of telling people about Bristol City. Guys, let's do as we would normally do, a sort of thoughts on the final whistle. I'll go to you first, Tom, as you walked out of Ashton Gate, because I know you were there yesterday. Were you feeling, on the back of the Plymouth game, encouraged, excited? What's the general feeling for you?
Yeah, I mean, as that particular game went, I don't think you could have asked for much more, really. But I just try not to get too carried away, because I think it was Dave who alluded to before the pod, they're like a week behind what we are, aren't they? So they're just a bit green to getting back to football and stuff. So I'm trying not to get too carried away, but it was pretty good yesterday.
Yeah, Dave, what were your thoughts? You were watching from afar, so you've seen it on the stream.
There are changes. I'm optimistic, and optimism in football normally kills you in the end. So you kind of have to enjoy it while it lasts. There was a lot to like about yesterday. There's for sure things to work on, but there's a lot to be positive about going into the season. That's for sure.
Yeah, and Neil, just wanted to have two Toms.
Yeah,
We've sat and watched the game together. What were your thoughts? Are you encouraged by Struber Ball?
It's a really difficult scenario with Struber Ball at the moment. You have a few games, the Plymouth game, yesterday's game, where you see a lot of positives, but you also see areas in which you think, let's just see what happens next weekend. You're not going to know realistically. For me, I don't think I can make a judgment until about the first 5 games with Struber Ball, really, as it stands at the moment. I think the players are still adapting to it, and I think at times we're a little open. At times we're asking players to do things that are so different to last season that we'll see how they adapt in the first 5 games, I would say. But positive.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things is some of the changes are things as a fan you almost want to see that kind of gone away from the game, like not being afraid to put the ball in the corner and turn in behind. The danger is that if it doesn't always work, you lose possession a lot and quickly. But as a fan, it's like you want to see those things and you have to accept that you might pay a price. And that's the curiousness going on.
That's exactly what I put on OTIB last night when I was tagging this. I mean, we're getting the ball forward and the intention is there. It doesn't always get executed. And a Spanish side that looked like they're on a large weekend trip in Bristol for much of the game. I didn't see the skill you normally associate with Spanish sides, but yeah, I think when Struber joined, he used the word chaos to describe the approach. And when you play those balls in like that, defenders have got players running at them. There were some, I'll call it, well, not unforced errors, but where they were just putting the ball out of touch because they didn't have time to dwell on it. And every time under Manning ball with the horseshoe style of football, you give the opposition the chance to reset the whole time. And we didn't do that. Tom, just since we talked about, that overall style, what are your views on Struber Ball? You've probably seen all the games in some shape or form, either physically or online, but it is different, isn't it?
It is, but I think being at the ground, during the seasons where Manning was in charge, you'd feel the groans and moans from quite a lot of fans about how slow our build-up was at times. And I think what Struber is trying to do is exactly the kind of football that most Bristol City fans want to see, I would suggest. But as I think it was Neil who said, some of the players are getting used to it, particularly Jason Knight, actually. I don't think he had his best game yesterday. We can let him off one game, but I don't think he was very good yesterday. He misplaced a fair few passes. Yeah. And I actually went to the open session on Friday as well, and he wasn't particularly happy in the drills that they were doing about the options he had for a pass and when people were giving him the ball. So I think he might be one of the players that needs to adjust to what they have to do on the ball, to be honest.
Interesting. You went to the open training session as well, Neil, didn't you? And we'll talk a bit more about that later. But
my youngest wanted to go, so yeah.
You traipsed along. I mean, do you agree with what Tom said there about Knight? I do. I don't think it was one of Knight's best games for us, and you can let him you can let him off for that because it wasn't an important game. But I saw the misplaced passes. Did you pick up anything from the open training session?
From the opening training session, or just with Knight?
With Knight.
With Knight, I think Knight is the type of player that when he's on his game, and he's fast, he's busy, he's industrious. When he's not on his game, he can appear sloppy, gets caught in possession a bit. I remember there were a few times yesterday that he got caught 25 yards out, and then he was complaining that nobody gave him a shout, and he was caught in possession a few times. And I remember Blackburn away last season when, he got caught in possession a few times and stuff like that. So I think his mind is always busy. I think Randall complements him potentially in that centre. They're both sort of busy sort of characters, but I agree with Tom. He didn't have his. He's also that's Knight really at the end of the day.
Dave.
He's also being asked to be a bit more expansive. There was a couple of times where he's looked to spread the play and he's given it away, but at the same time, it's his ball that creates the opening goal. And if you're going to tell me that you're going to give away a few passes at certain moments, but that's what you're going to do to create a goal, you're going to take it, because we can't have it both ways.
That's it. Percentages.
The one in the middle, the one when he gives it away from the keeper. That's not what we want to see. That's what we saw a couple of times last season in a communication issue. But if he is trying to be expansive and he gives it away, to me, that's okay. And we have to sign up for that, because we were complaining that it was too safe. And you can't be both. You can't complain of giving it away and being safe.
Yeah. Let's look at the starting lineup. I think bar Vitek, is that the right pronunciation? Vitek in goal. Tom, that was the same team that started the field against Plymouth last weekend, wasn't it? Yeah, in the same format.
Oh, I couldn't tell you the team that started in Plymouth, but it was a team that was playing in
Let's work on the basis that it is. Do you think that will be the team that he starts with at Bramall Lane next Saturday? Starts with?
If you're asking me, I think probably. The only question I would have is, does he play Sykes at right wing back and McCrorie on the left? I think that's the only question I'd have, really.
And that's the change that he made with about 25 minutes to go, wasn't it? Yeah?
Yeah, amongst other players coming on and off, that was something that happened, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I put on the OTIB, or might have been on X, that I'm a bit worried about you and Mehmeti on the left side. There's nothing there defensively. There's nothing there defensively that gives you confidence. And somebody thought I was a bit harsh because they both played well yesterday. I mean, Dave, that left-hand side of you and Mehmeti, and what's happened to Morrison? He seems to be right out of the reckoning. He didn't get a game, didn't get any minutes at all. But Dave, that left-hand side.
Well, first of all, in terms of Morrison, I think the message is pretty clear. He needs to do more. Whatever Struber's seeing in training is not enough. The fact that he didn't get any minutes yesterday, he's third in the pecking order, and that's about considering Pring coming later. At the end of the day, the change he made was to bring McCrorie over. I would be stunned if it's not that opening team next week, because ultimately you're investing in this project with you on the left. And I know he plays there for his national team sometimes, but you've in the two games that are on Saturdays going into the season, that's where you've put it. And to all of a sudden say to you, actually against Sheffield United, we need McCrorie over there. It doesn't make any sense, and it's not exactly a glowing sign of confidence. So I'm almost 100% that's the side we see next week. And the early stages of the season will be defined by how successful you is on the left.
I agree with that. And talking about season-defining games, you can't say the pattern will be set. But I think if we come back with anything from Sheffield United, by anything I mean a 2-1 defeat or a decent performance, I think that will set us up nicely for the cup game against MK and the game against Charlton. But what we don't want is to go to Sheffield United and get a hiding up there. And by a hiding, I mean anything that's 3-0 and above. What did you think of? What do you think of this left side at the moment? Because McCrorie on the left, that's where he spent most of last season. Mm-hmm. And one thing I can say that Struber said at the HPC meeting, he does not like square pegs in round holes. Yeah, but he's almost put McCrorie on that side because he had to, because he obviously doesn't have that confidence in Morrison at the moment.
Well, he played McCrory's 2 goals. One was from right wing back, and one was from left wing back.
Yeah.
What I can say about Struber so far is that he likes players that play with intensity, and he likes players that play, in people's faces. That's why he likes Yeboah. That's why Yeboah's come back into
the equation. He's come back from the dead, hasn't he, really?
He looks beefed up as well. Yeboah looks like he's been in the gym. like he's put on about quite a few kilos of sort of body mass in the top half, and he's the third choice now. Really, you've got Reece, probably Armstrong, Yeboah. Those are the three, I think, forward options in relation to it, just based on intensity. But the thing about Struber ball is there is a certain amount of chaos involved to it. I mean, the amount of times I went back and watched the highlights, and from my memory of the game, the amount of times the ball went back to Vitek, and boy, can that guy ping a ball. He hits that ball and it goes from our box right away to their 18-yard box. And it's not like Max's kicks. Max's kicks have got this, negative rotation on it, and they tend to sort of hang in the air and all the rest of it. Vitek pings it, and he's pinging it to the edge of their area. And then it's almost like Struber ball is, right, everybody, as soon as it goes back to the keeper now, we're just going to see about 8 players rushing forward to the edge of their box. And he buzzes the ball in, and then it's a free-for-all on the edge of the box. And that is Struber ball. There's a certain chaotic approach to it that we just would never have seen with Manning. Manning, if Manning watched the keeper just hitting his long ball into their area, hitting a long ball,
he would have given a Magic a game if Max had kept doing that, wouldn't it?
He would do his head. What's going on? No.
Frankie Fielding used to send those into the stands, didn't he? And he could hit it long. But
his general kicking, I know we'll talk about Vitek generally, but his general kicking, he's hitting McCrorie. I think he's a little bit more precise with his kicking as well, either from the hand or on the ground. He's hitting McCrorie a little bit more, but we're going back to those days of when
used to stand on
when Fielding used to hit Pring and Brian quite a lot on the left hand side in particular and stuff like that with it. But there's a certain chaos involved. I agree with Dave. I think he'll go with that formation, but there's a caveat with you. I think he's going to give you a chance out there, but if it's not working, he has got options, and then he'll bring McCrorie onto the left and Sykes on the right, like Thomas said. But Morrison, I don't think Morrison's been great pre-season. So I think everybody's had an opportunity pre-season, and we'll probably get into it. Everybody's had an opportunity as to whether or not they can adapt. And certain players have made an impression, certain players haven't made an impression.
Yeah. Well, and Yeboah's,
and we saw that yesterday.
And Yeboah's pushed himself in front of Maulu, Bell, and Cornick. It said, I saw there was a headline, I think it was in Bristol Live. Struber's plan for Maulu, and I thought that was to get him an easy jet to the any club.
There is a line, though, between chaos and aimless, because for the first 20-25 minutes yesterday, it was the right kind of chaos. It was putting balls in corners. It was Twine and Mehmeti getting free in holes and feeding them. So the Valladolid defence they started off dropping back, then they were trying to get tight, and they didn't really know what they were doing. But as they grew into the game, we were when we were going long, we were giving it away, and it was too easy, and it was becoming almost a bit aimless for a period of time. And that's when the penalty came. That's when they had a few chances. So you do have to watch as a side, because for me personally, chaos in football was wonderful. It's exactly what I want to see. But you don't want to see aimless, because that
and you've got to accept the fact that some of these sides are going to be a lot better organised than the Spanish. Yeah, when we start, and we'll get a good test of that next Saturday tea time. Tom, the first goal, Reece and Mehmeti combining. Randall, I mean, he's not a prolific goal scorer. That's the only thing of Knight's game that people say makes him not worth the 8-figure sum that some would like if he did get sold. But good goal, good finish, good build-up for the first one.
Yeah, I'd agree. I would probably say I would have expected more from Mehmeti when he originally got the ball, that he could possibly have made a shot for himself. But I guess that's the nature of Mehmeti at times, isn't it? But I thought it was a really tidy goal. And Randall in general, I thought had a really just tidy game in general. He looked probably the most suited of him and Knight so far for that sort of role, to be honest.
Dave, what did you think of the goal? And I thought when we signed Randall, I thought that's getting our replacement for Knight in, because they're very similar players. We talk about players that could force their way into the team when they're fit. But the first goal and Randall's performance overall, it looks a good acquisition, doesn't he?
The goal itself, for me, the key point is the Knight ball in behind and Reece attacking the channel and something coming from it. Quite often with Armstrong last season, not to criticise him, we would see balls coming into the channel and nothing came from it. Some of that was on him. Some of that was on players joining him. Yesterday, we get a ball in the channel. how many players in the box were there? 3. You know, it's a difference in intensity. It's a difference in attacking the box, and that was the most pleasing part of the first goal yesterday. I thought Randall was pretty good overall, but it will be very interesting when Bird is fit and fully operational. If it is a 2 in the middle, who are the 2 of the 3? Because I think Bird is a starter. And when we talk about Knight giving it away, he's almost being asked to pick up pieces that Bird was doing last season. And you need Bird as that guy picking it up off the defence, feeding the players, because he is probably our best long passer in the side. And to not have him in for me wouldn't work. So I'm really not sure if Randall is the best 11. I know that's not like the modern game and you have to rotate, etc. But it'll be interesting to see how Randall fits once Bird is fit.
Your thoughts on that opening goal and those comments there? Neither Tom nor Dave mentioned about my cynical view that Randall's the replacement for Knight, because they are very samey. We've got Joe Williams, who's injured at the moment. He can play that busy bee, to use Lee Johnson's phrase, in midfield. And then where is that cultured passer that we've always had, you know, in years gone by, that can pick a pass? Bird is that person.
Okay, so Williams was at the open training session, as Tom went to. So Williams did a full session. So I think he's quite close to being involved. Bird wasn't there. So I think Bird is probably a few weeks off. So we haven't got the question of the midfield for a few weeks, I think, because Bird's not necessarily there. Cultured passer of the ball, absolutely. I like Bird. Does he fit into Struber ball? We'll wait and see, because is he busy enough? Is he physical enough? Does he have this energy?
He has a laconic style sometimes, Bird,
he has a laid-back style with relation to it. Yes, he can, as Dave quite rightly says, on his day, very good passer of the ball. But Struber ball isn't necessarily, from my sort of viewpoint of it so far, about, you know, accurate passing, incisive passing. That was a bit more Manning ball. Struber ball is like a chaos type thing where we're just throwing it into the channels. We're throwing it into areas. Do we need battlers in that situation? Do we need industrious, energetic players? Or do we need tacticians in that? Somebody that can go with that precise pass. Again, we won't know how effective Struber ball is in a championship, because don't forget, he was at Barnsley. You know, he's not managed in the championship, and the championship is a very, very different. You know, I know that he kept Barnsley up, but then he left straight afterwards. You know, a full season with that squad in the championship. Let's see how we go. Does chaos work? Does it not work?
Yeah, and I think like an international break when we get to the first week of October, because there's only a run of 4 games between now and the first international break, plus 1, hopefully 2 cup games. But I think it's the beginning of October where we'll really get a feel for what it's going to be, how effective it is. Tom, the second goal came. Tom, oh, sorry, Dave, go on, you jump in. Dave,
I was going to say, do you guys think that we'll keep going with the 3 at the back once players are up and everybody's fit, or do you see us changing to a 4 relatively quickly?
Tom, you can answer that one. Tom, do you think we'll stick with 3 at the back?
I think it's all down to how our centre-backs look, to be honest. If I remember rightly, Manning started with a 4 at the back, didn't he? And I think it may have been a lack of trust in our centre-backs that led him to playing a 3 at the back. So I think we beat Southampton, didn't we, playing a 4-2-3-1, for example. I think it's just the amount of trust that Gerhard has in centre-backs, to be honest, I would say.
But with Dickey misses the game at the weekend. I mean, because you could... It's that left back that still becomes a problem if you go to a 4, isn't it? Because I think Hayden Roberts, I think if somebody came in with a bid, we'd let him go. Yeah, so and defensively, Knight LaBelle is on the fringes. He was on the bench yesterday. You know, if Dick is fit, who do you leave, or Dick is available, who do you leave out of Tanner, Viner and Atkinson? I mean, having Atkinson is like having a new quality signing. When he was sprinting, I was hopeful that he didn't pull up or something like that. But and Tom Viner, he's out of contract next summer. You know, Derby County linked with him in the press the tail end of the week. Who drops out once Dickey is fit, or not? Does Dickey have to be content with a start on the bench?
I honestly have no idea. That's probably a good thing that there's competition amongst the players, really. But right now, I honestly couldn't tell you the one that I'd drop. I think they all have their strengths and weaknesses. And Viner, I'm not his biggest fan, but he played 45 games in a playoff season. I thought he was pretty decent last year as well. So yeah, it's hard for me to say. I don't know.
I think the main question is: do you want Tanner or Viner as your right centre back? Because that's what it will come down to: is those two competing for that position.
Yeah.
And I would go for Viner over Tanner in that position.
Yeah. Interestingly, somebody said to me that McNally is right-footed. He only played on. Tom Neil said that to me. He only played on the left because of necessity. But when McNally is fit, which isn't going to be until Christmas, so let's see him in the new year then. It does. We have got that competition there, haven't we, Neil?
I think our best three centre backs: McNally, Dickey, Atkinson.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah,
those are the best three centre backs in relation to it. People talk about the pace of Zach Viner. McNally is pacey as well.
He's quick.
He's quick as well, and he's physical with it. And he played right centre back for Coventry when they went into the playoff final. He played the playoff final for Coventry at right centre back. So. But as you say, we've got injuries. Where would Pring come into the equation at left wing?
But he's out for 4 months.
Indeed. So trying to figure about what your best three or your best five, you've got to take into the equation that you've got injuries. First game of the season for me after Sheffield United, I think Tanner drops out for Dickey, and I think you go with Viner at right centre back. I think he likes Viner.
He really
likes.
That was something that Struber said at the HPC to the people that we were there when we met. He likes Viner. I think he likes his athleticism, and he also likes Mehmeti. He talked about him as his athleticism, and I think he won the boot test or whatever it's called. But also his intelligence. He's a thinker of the game. So it's that's interesting. Now let's get back to the action because 4-0 is good. Still got to put the ball in the net regardless of the opposition. Second goal, a good finish from McCrorie. He's turning into a bit of a goal scoring machine, Tom, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you how many goals he scored in games that I've watched, but it's like one per game, pretty much in the recent 6 or 7 that I've seen him. I would just say his finishing, he's so composed in front of goal, probably more so than half of our strikers. The 2 finishes today were really tidy, and he only had two chances, scored them all.
Yeah. Dave, we're starting to see the best of McCrorie, and I'm right in saying, is he out of contract in the next summer, or is he on a 4-year deal? So this is
you caught me off guard in terms of contracts. It's early in the season. I confess I haven't looked. No. In terms of the goal itself, what I found interesting was the Twine run in behind. You're talking the number 10 that's seat or the second striker, whatever they're playing right now, not exactly known for his pace. Still being told, get forward, get in behind. And that kind of delivery frees it up for McCrorie. I think over the course of the season, that battle for the right side of McCrorie and Sykes is going to be a hell of a battle, because the thing that Sykes has got about him is the ability to score goals. If McCrorie is scoring like he seems to be doing, he didn't score for ages and he got one and he was given a massive amount of confidence. And he's the guy that's arriving at the right time, and quite often he's free and he's the finishes are relatively simple finishes, but now he's got that confidence to be in position and score. But like I said, what I found most interesting was the ball over the top for Twine, and that's something that's clearly being worked on. Stretch the defence, get in behind, ask lots of questions, and not just play in front.
Neil,
McCrory's got an option, with Dickey.
All right.
So he's 1+1 in relation to it. But McCrorie, for me, people talk about Knight, clubs coming in for Knight, clubs will come in for McCrorie.
What's his name? Who's the Ali McCoy? I think I read him. Somebody bumped into Ali McCoy at an airport, I think, somewhere, and said, "Oh, how's Big Rob doing? He's well liked, isn't he? And well regarded as a Scottish footballer."
McCrorie now, if you're looking at McCrorie had as many goals last season as Twine. He got 5 goals from wing-back positions, and that was in an injury-hit season for him.
And on the wrong side for him.
And on the wrong side. So you're talking about a player that can play left wing-back, right wing-back, can play multiple sort of positions.
We've not even seen him in midfield, have we? Because he can play there as well.
Not even seen him potentially in a centre-back position. Now they're
I don't think we can say McCrorie anymore is the wrong side. I think he's now a well-moulded circular peg is more than capable of playing left wing back.
He's the type of player, though, Dave, that can play numerous positions that would be so attractive to a manager, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
you look at him and you look at him and you think, God, a player like that, powerful, quite pacey in his own way, powerful, intense, leader on the pitch. Other players look to him. He gets forward, he gets back, he brings you an energy and a drive. I mean, we're fortunate in that he's got 2 years left on his contract, but I think he's a one that would invite offers in a way that Pring
his injury record's starting to get a bit.
Sometimes with Pring, you look at him and you think, oh, he can really kick on and he can be a fantastic player and all the rest of it. Since his injuries, it'll be interesting to see how far forward when he comes back. His forward play under Pearson, his forward play was immense. You know, he was getting to the byline, cutting it back. A lot of Sykes' goals coming in from the right was Pring getting to the goal line. He hasn't been doing that under Manning, whether or not he's been having to do the horseshoe, but he's less of an attractive target for me. The two players for City, McCrorie and Knight, are the two most attractive to other teams.
And we have got to sell because we're making a £20 million between 15 and 18 million trading loss before any player sales. So we're not going to be able to turn an offer down if it comes in.
This is a question I have for the three of you. Do you think Knight is there at the end of the transfer window?
Tom, you first.
I haven't seen anything solid of a club coming in for him. And I think he either goes to one of like an Ipswich or a promoted team if he were to leave, would be my view. And I've not heard any rumours of the two or any of those teams in for him at the moment. So I'm saying no right now.
Yeah.
I think it depends how we do. I'm aware of numerous players within inside the City squad that are being touted for transfers away on various systems, touted for transfers away, loans away. We need to get that squad down. There's too many fringe players there. So there's a number of players. We're going into a season where, you know, we've got 6 out of the 18, I would say, that are out of contract at the end of the season. And 6 or 7 out of contract where you've got decisions to make on all of them. If you can get rid of a few of those, then I think Knight possibly stays. If you can't get rid of them and you get a late offer for Knight and then you're looking at it and you're thinking, right, we haven't been able to get shot at this. We need a few players and a few key positions. Then I think we'll.
Well, who's going to get shot of, Neil? Who's on your? Well, the short list we're getting shot of is Cornick, Bell, and Mayulu, isn't it? And Robert, Cornick, Bell, Mayulu, Roberts, and who's going to come in and buy any of those?
Well, I think Fally. I think it's clear from Tom will see too as well. The open day, Fally was just not involved in that open day. You know, even when they went 11 versus 11 on the sides, he's on the sideline. He's not getting minutes. In 3-a-side and 5-a-side, he's got some talent. He's a good finisher of the ball. He strikes the ball well, and in close interactive play, he's a talented player. You can see that. But actually, on the field itself, he doesn't have that rapid acceleration. He's not great on the press. He doesn't have his physicality. As it stands, I can't see how Fally fits in. So I think that's a loan. I think if we could get him out permanently, we'd just cut our losses. But it may be a loan away. And then you've got players like Cornick going into last. I don't think he's got a future at the club in the nicest possible way. And
Sam Bell. I don't know how his hairband on yesterday, but
he did. Murphy's come back into the equation. Murphy needs minutes, so then you're looking. Murphy is a good earner at the club. He's got a big contract at the club. So you need to get him out on loan. And theoretically, there's a number of players with inside that. You talk about.
Why do you think getting these people out the door will impact on Knight? Because we can make him a better offer?
No. It's not so much us making better offers, but I think we've got so many decisions to make on so many players, even the ones that are under contracts, like the Fallies and the Armstrongs that we haven't spoken about. But we've got so many players that are out of contract at the end of the season. Yeah. Now, if we're not going to contracts,
how has that happened though? To be in that situation where you've got so many out of contract in one season, is that, to me, that's not normal to have that many decisions to make? Is that not like an undersight by the club?
Well, it's part. I mean, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but it's part of the undercurrent of everything. Like it's widely documented that Mehmeti isn't signing a contract, so we're led to believe. Why? Is everybody hedging their bets. You know, if you're going to have a good season, you're not going to want to sign that contract because you're going to get a better deal elsewhere. Let's talk about a key incident in the game, Tom. The penalty and the save. Who conceded the penalty, Tom? I haven't looked at it back yet. I've seen the save a couple of times.
So when I was watching the game, I thought it was Vitek because he jumped up to catch a cross and he landed on the Valladolid player. I don't know who he landed on, and I thought that was what the ref gave a pen for. But apparently there was a George Tanner shirt pull or something in the box, and that was the reason he gave it. I didn't see that when I was watching the game.
It was Tanner.
Tanner push. Little Tanner push.
But it looked innocuous. It was.
I think it's very harsh. It's very, very harsh. I mean, you won't see many penalties given for that in the season. It's extremely, extremely harsh.
Yeah, and the penalty, we've seen so many penalties, how not to take them in recent weeks. Oh, sorry, mustn't say that. Was that Tom first, then Dave, and then Neil? Was that a good save or a poor penalty?
I don't think it was a perfect penalty. It wasn't a terrible penalty and a pretty good save. I watched, I'm sure Neil will say the same. I watched the open session. Vitek got absolutely sent by a hot penalty that Twine took. So I think he was prepared to stay on his line for a bit longer before that one.
Yeah. Dave, good pen or poor pen? Good save. Any penalty save is to be a good one, I suppose.
I think it's the work that he puts in before. You know, goalkeepers go about it in different ways, but he made himself very, very big. He was constantly moving. He's trying to bluff the striker almost. So a lot of strikers will look for that foot to be planted, and they'll go the other way because for the keeper it's very difficult to double bluff. And he's trying to make sure he's moving everywhere, so the striker has no idea which way he's going to dive. And basically he calls it. It's a very good save, but he did the work before the penalty. And he just grew in confidence. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him saving a few penalties this season.
Yeah. Neil?
Well, we watched Lukic in goals. And apologies for anybody listening to this on Spotify. But he stood there and all he had to do was that. And he was touching the crossbar. And he's like a giant Mr. Tickle with his arms. You know, these really long arms and sort of an asteroid jump, and he's running back and forth along it. I remember Fulham away a number of years ago when Fally got the late goal in the cup and we won in the cup. And Lukic, who was a German keeper.
Fally?
No. Tammy.
4-0 up there.
No, 2-1. He got a injury time winner in the cup. But Tammy Abraham. But Lukic saved a penalty. And what he did, he was very active on his line and he was going back and forth and he just made it, you know, he confuses the penalty taker with
Robert almost.
Well, yeah, that's going back some, but yeah, with it. And he did that very well yesterday. And he is massive. He fills the goal.
He is built like Peter Schmeichel, isn't he?
Well, he reminds me of a young De Gea at Man United when he first came. He's skinny. You do wonder, like at Sheffield United or whatever, if Kiefer Moore was playing, and who might go to Wrexham, would you just
a bit more imposing?
Get into him a little bit. You know, there's not much muscle on him, put it that way. Yeah. But he's tall, he's wiry. There are a lot. We'll probably talk about him in a bit, but in their penalty situation, if you've got a guy that's filling a goal and he's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and he's active on the line, it does confuse you as a penalty taker.
I'm trying to think of big guys in the goal for City. And if you go back to my early days, which started with Mike Gibson, little bloke, Ray Cashley, little bloke, Jan Moller, big bloke, made his name with Malmo. Yeah, really, I mean, his physique was like Jan Moller. You then jump forward quite a few decades, and then you've got Sieb Dijkstra, who was a lone goalkeeper, I think.
From Southampton.
Sieb Dijkstra.
Yeah, very good.
And one player who didn't really get a chance because he got injured. It was a groin injury, goalkeeper. And I know a little bit of the detail on that I'm not going to repeat on here. But Billy Mercer, who remembers Billy Mercer?
Of course, wow. Flashback.
Yeah. He was great. For when he wasn't injured, he was great. Played in the LDV final against Stoke, didn't he? When we lost 2-1.
Yes.
With that horrible kit, the one-off kit we had, the mustard and
blue. The yellow and blue, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was an interesting thing come here properly here on the text feed while we've been talking. Thoughts on the Turkey Ashik possible takeover as reported on Bristol TV? That's probably about as reliable as Roy the Alien, isn't it?
Wow.
And Lansdowne finally selling the Ashton Vale land. That is true, the Ashton Vale land being sold.
It's just for the sport.
I read, yeah. Anyway, we move on. I don't
What
know
did
anything about
what did you think overall of Vitek yesterday? What was your overall impressions? What did you like? What did you think was areas to work on?
Tom, you answer that one.
Yeah, I think when I made my video about him, I think he's a stereotypical young goalkeeper. You can see he's naturally made to play the position. That I don't think you can get away with being a young goalkeeper without being good with your feet. So I think that was proven. Did he give the ball away? I think he gave the ball away once, didn't he? There was I don't know if it was him or another player. I remember seeing the ball being given away. I just think you're going to get a couple of frustrations probably that you'd expect with a young goalkeeper. He's going to come out for a couple of crosses that he probably doesn't claim and stuff like that. But I think all round he looked better than what we would have without Max, I would say anyway.
Do you think, Tom, that if he keeps the shirt, if he plays well, Max, is out of contract in the summer next year, Max is going to struggle to reclaim the shirt if he's consistent, isn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Neil, your thoughts on Vitek yesterday?
I think there's an unknown. I think Tom has alluded to it. You know, with young keepers, he's new to the Championship. You're wondering how he's going to adapt. I think it's a really sensible thing that we've got. You know, he's got a recall option in January. So Man United, if he's not getting the minutes, if he's on the bench, they'll have him back.
And they'll loan him out to another Championship club. Maybe.
Well, or wherever he's gone. He was at Accrington Stanley before, wasn't he? So he's never been alone in League One. And obviously Goodman's at Huddersfield now, the other decent sort of young keeper from Crystal Palace. But I think he's a very young Bristol City goalkeeper.
Yeah.
He's the type of goalkeeper that we've seen for other teams coming down the gate and thinking, blimey, he's a big old unit and all the rest of it. I think Max is a good, solid Championship keeper, but we've always felt with him that you're not going to go to the next level with Max. So let's just see where Vitek takes us. But his kicking, his kicking is
he's got
something
the potential
that Max can't
He's
do.
got the potential on a wet and windy night in October at Ashton Gate when he's kicking towards the Atio of doing a Ray Cashley. And I was explaining to the person I was with last night who was at the game, who's only 18, that Ray Cashley, I pointed out, it was against Hull and he kicked it from the south stand end right the way down. It bounced on the D, and Jeff Whelans, who was the Hull City goalkeeper, was standing on a penalty spot, and it bounced on the D and over his head and into the net. That was when it was all open for those of you that are too young to remember it. And straight in the goal. Unbelievable.
For my part, I think that he, often when a player doesn't play in football, they become better by being injured. We're about to find out how much of that is true with Max. With Vitek, there's a lot of stuff that looks very promising. In terms of sweeping yesterday, he was a couple of times a bit too keen to come out, and he was finding himself outside the box, but the defense had it covered and they couldn't head it back because of where he was. He does need to, he's a bit raw around the edges, as you would expect. But if he performs well, Max is going to be under a lot of pressure. If he struggles, all of a sudden Max becomes a much better keeper, and people like me will be like, maybe we're misjudging him slightly. Because if Max would have been doing that coming out, it would have been, what was he doing? Why are you out that far?
Well, look what happened. Remember QPR at home last season?
Well, you would assume, being young and where he's from, that he's a very, very quick learner the way he's progressed. But I'd imagine that they'll be looking at the tape and being like, look, you've got to make slight adjustments. It was promising, very promising from his point of view. But for sure, he's a little bit raw on the edges that you might get punished for in a Championship game. Okay,
Dave, let me ask you this question, and then Tom and Neil. Getting Vitek in, it begs the question: why did Thomas get a contract? Because you've got Lumley there. Who instigated the Vitek move? And, there's a promising young keeper, I think his surname's Duncan. Is it Joe Duncan? Joe Duncan. We've gone from having very little goalkeeping cover in depth to too many. Would you agree with that, Dave? Or can you never have too many goalkeepers?
I I don't think you can necessarily have too many, and I don't necessarily think that, for goalkeepers, we're talking about a pathway at the moment, because I don't think anyone is that particularly close as a goalkeeper. In terms of getting Lumley in, it made sense at the time. You don't necessarily know that you're getting Vitek. It's easy to see what's happened. It's like, right, Lumley's come in for the number 2 because Max is around. Max's injury is a bit longer than expected. So the club go out and do something. If we do have many keepers, I don't really know why Thomas is still there. But what I would say is kudos to the club for getting Vitek, because you would imagine there was competition elsewhere and they've gone out and got a player. That for me is the key point. They've identified it and they've just gone and solved the issue, because Lumley was not going to be the guy going forward for the next 4 months.
Tom, if you're Joe Lumley, do you feel a little bit shortchanged because you came here not knowing that Max was injured? Allegedly, he went over on this dodgy ankle on a training run in Bath. Yeah. Do you feel shortchanged if you're Lumley, or what you've seen of Lumley? Is he not that great, and therefore we had to go out and get Vitek?
I'm sort of on the fence with it, really. I think after watching a compilation on Twitter of his mistakes at previous clubs, that's easy to put you off Lumley. I guess it all depends what he was promised when he signed the contract, right? Because I think when you're signing a contract to become a second choice championship keeper, you're not expecting to play like 3 or 4 months worth of football. But for me, it depends on, did they know about the Max O'Leary injury when they signed Lumley? That's the key bit of information for me that could change it, I think.
And that whole thing with O'Leary's injury, Tom, he got injured against QPR. It's no Sunderland apart. It's no coincidence that we were shepherding him. Is that the word? We were aware of his limitations from Sunderland game onwards, Max.
With
and then
Max.
he goes off and plays for Ireland. So did he say, "Oh, I'm fit," but really, did he want to get that first cap? This doesn't appear to be managed particularly well by Max or by the club or both.
Ankles are an interesting thing. If Tom was my Tom, if he was here, he was out. He did a bad ankle injury, and we had physios at the SGS Academy in the elite squad with Dave Hockaday, and he had the ankle injury, and they had the strength and conditioning, they had the physio. They put him on rehab, and 6 months later, he's still playing. He's still got problems. And then we sent him off for an MRI, and he's got 4 ruptured grade 3 tendons, including the ATFL right the way through it. Needed an operation, and then out for a year. So you play on sometimes with ankles. They're not quite as obvious as a knee injury or a hamstring or a calf or whatever like that. So ankles, it's quite clear to everybody that last month of the season, and Max O'Leary was not fit.
Yeah.
At the end of last season. And
there was no confidence in the manager to
bring in Bajic. No. I couldn't understand it. I thought, like, Luton away, you give Bajic a chance or something like that, because I think
because if Max had broken down in any of those games,
well, it affected the whole of the defence, because you could just tell there was uncertainty with the defence. Is he coming? Is he not coming? They were pinning him at set pieces in a way. We were conceding set piece goals in a way that we didn't for the remainder of the season. The other teams knew he was injured. They targeted him. It was awful, David, wasn't it? The last 5 games, league games, 5 points, 3 of which were Sunderland, where they were down to 10 men after 7 minutes, and we still went 1-0 down.
Yeah,
in that game. So, and then we got over the hill, but that Preston game at the end, that was hard going, wasn't it? That last game of the season, you could tell everybody was running on empty. But do I feel that we're stronger in a goalkeeper position with Vitek and Lumley? Yes,
of course we are.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
So that ultimately, Max Bajic or Lumley Vitek.
Yeah. Okay, Dave. Emil Rees. Don Goodman, I think it was, the pundit, said, "Oh, I'm surprised he went to Bristol City. He could have done better than that." But he's looking, I use the term, he's a bit like Chris Martin on steroids. He's got a shot. Somebody's put on the text feed here. If he gets injured, we're in trouble. But, the third goal from him after good work between Mehmeti and Hirakawa. What are your thoughts on Rees, Emil Rees? They dropped the Jacobson bit. So what are your thoughts on him and that third goal?
Well, in terms of the third goal, I don't think we'll see many goals like that in the season itself. It's a very pre-season-y goal, shall we say, with what's happening in the box and how they give it away. So I don't put too much on that area. What I do look at is the fact that he's just always looking for a goal. And I can see him being a bit of a love-hate player, because if you talk about him getting, say, somewhere between 12 and 15 goals, I can also see him being a player that misses a lot of chances. He will score, and he seems like the player's got a lot of confidence, and he's going to keep getting into positions, and he will take some, but you will always feel like you should take more. And there'll be some games that we lose 1-0 where he's had two chances and not taken them. So I can see it being a real love-hate relationship. But overall, it's nice to have a striker that's constantly looking for a goal and actually shoots.
And it is a good capture for us. I mean, certainly
Sure.
the transfer policy of the club, or the transfer dealings of the club, are often berated, and Mayulu, classic example of that. But that is a good find getting him in. Tom, what are your early thoughts of Reece? He's physical. We seem to be playing him as a 1 at the moment, but he's put in 3 goals in the last couple of games. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I just think he suits the system well. I think he ran the channels yesterday pretty good. So he can get him behind with his pace. I just think he ticks all the boxes of what you'd want from a championship striker, really. And I think, as Dave was saying about missing chances, I think if he was to take more chances than he's historically done, he probably wouldn't be playing in the championship, to be honest. But yeah, I think he's a good player, and I'm very happy to have him at the club. And I also remember there were a couple of good crosses. I think you put in one right on his forehead, and he missed that chance, and that was
when he headed over down at the south stand, wasn't it?
I thought it was a really good chance, to be honest, and I think we'll probably see that quite a bit, as Dave said.
Neil, Reece,
fantastic pickup on there's no such thing as a free transfer, and I'm sure we gave him a very, very good deal to get it in as early as he did. We've got no one else that can play like him. I think he's your main guy this year. You go into the season, he's your main guy. If there is an issue with him, there's no one else that can play.
Not even youngster.
I don't think so. I think there's, strangely for a big man, quite poor in the air. And I mean, Tom spoke about the chance, but just in the air itself, as long as through chaos, I think he'll have chances. I mean, he had a 20-goal season, one at Preston. So he is capable of having a 20-goal season, before he had his ACL a few years ago and he had a bad knee injury. But
he's got to get 50. He's got to get between 12 and 15.
We're going to be asking a lot of him, and the workload of him. And I do wonder, where you just need a backup to him a little bit. I think we are. But then you say a backup to him, and then you look on the bench, and if you're Struby, you're looking at the bench, and the names you just mentioned, God, they're there, but they're not a backup to Reece, are they? We've got a lot of players that we need to sort of, if they're fringe players, they're not going to form, they're not going to be an Emil Reece, but you want to manage his workload. If he's in a really tough attritional game, he's getting kicked, you want to get him off at 60, 70 minutes, give him a rest, and
I think
his workload's going to be immense at the club. Otherwise,
I think, as you say, look, you got Cornick, Bell, and Mayulu. We've got to try and shift them. Look at the collective wage of that trio. And is that you bring in, like you brought in a young lone goalkeeper, do you try and get a young lone striker?
You've got to get
as a backup.
We've got to get people out before we bring anyone in.
I don't think there's going to be another striker, because I think that he would have been very pleased in what he saw in Armstrong yesterday.
Well, it brings me on to the next point, Dave, and then I'll come to you, Tom. On the 66 minutes, not the 60 minutes that Liam Manning was renowned for, off went Reece, Hirakara and Twine. On came Armstrong, Yeboah and Sykes. Yeboah, as we said, back from the dead, awful loan spells for him at, where was it, Doncaster and Dunfermline. Dave, Armstrong, he looked interested yesterday, didn't he?
If you are a Struber, you would have seen that yesterday, and you would have seen the promising parts that we see often. If Armstrong is going to kick on this season, he needs to develop taking more chances and creating more things from when he gets the ball in that inside left channel, one-on-one with a centre-back. Too often he cuts in, or he goes down the line and loses it. He needs to be not lethal, but take chances from that position and create more. If he does that, and if he gets a goal early on, you will see a confident Armstrong, because the chaos theory, it suits him, because his strengths last season were getting in the channels, but the support wasn't there. This season, the support will be, because there'll be more risk on mode because of the chaos.
Yeah.
It's a make or break for him. This first 2 months is make or break for him in the season.
Tom, your thoughts on Armstrong yesterday?
Yeah, I think exactly as Dave said it. Struber will be pleased with the chaos he caused. I always feel with Armstrong, if you're a centre half in the Championship and you see him lined up against you, you're nervous, because I haven't seen a single Championship centre back get one on him in terms of like strength or pace running in behind. But it's a similar. I always liken him to a bit to Darwin Núñez at Liverpool, where he offers everything to the eye, and then it's the final product that he just misses. And I think it's for him, it's a completely mental thing. It's composure in the right places to make the right decision.
Well, he did that good run late on, didn't he? Where he took the ball and then he just did a Bas Savage-esque stumble at the vital moment. But do you think there's the coaching ability there to make him better, put their arm around him? Because he seemed quite depressed. Somebody who saw him after the final game against Preston, he just didn't seem engaged with people, and that was on the final lap of honour. I mean, do you think we can get the best out of him?
I think he deserves another chance for sure, and I'd be hopeful that we could. I'm still not. The jury's out, I guess, on that. And the one thing I would say, I think he's really critical of himself as well. Whenever he misses a chances or does something wrong, he's always led down on the pitch, smashing the ground and stuff. I don't think he helps himself at times.
If I were him, it would be my obsession of those channel runs where you're one-on-one, of finishing them. Never mind finishing from other positions. They said it on Robin's TV yesterday. I forget who it was, but that's the kind of chances he should be practicing, because this way of playing does suit him, how quick we are to go to the channels if there is space. He's the kind of guy that coming on in the second half, a tiring defence, it will suit him. But he needs goals, because goals breeds confidence.
And he showed what he can do, Dave, didn't he? Because there was a game last season where he came on that powering run in from the left, and it was a confident finish. Neil, your thoughts on Sinks?
The strange thing about Sinks is, and Tom would have seen him at the training day, awful first touch. Close control, technical wise of it, really poor, really poor. The type of thing, you look at him sometimes in certain situations and you're thinking he's League 2 conference level in so many of the things that he actually does. He strikes me as a player. At QPR, he got into the first team early and he stayed with QPR. Really, he could have done with a loan out. He could have done with a lower season, so, decent minutes at League 1, League 2 level. Right, he's always been Championship in relation to it. And always, you look at him, and a lot of people have put a lot of time and effort into Sinclair Armstrong. The chaos will benefit him more than a tactical, incisive Manning ball. Where you're looking for very technical in the way that Yeboah, similar type scenario. Again, not the most technically gifted by any sense, but he's got power,
do you remember that
energy,
Luar,
and an intent on him that you just throw him in like a Tasmanian devil in the centre.
There used to be a guy that played for Portsmouth, I think, or there was two of them. I think they were brothers, but one in particular, and you think, oh God, he's dangerous, like that Tasmanian devil. Luar. Do you remember? Little guy.
Luton as well, wasn't he?
Is that right?
Yeah. The thing with Armstrong yesterday, if you look at like the fourth goal, there were so many occasions where he was isolated, and that was the biggest criticism, that Manning ball didn't necessarily suit him. In the second half, he had Yeboah around him constantly. And what does that do? It takes up players' minds, and at the end of it, you get McCrorie completely free at the back post, because you've got more players pulling in people, disrupting the defence. So hope is not lost for Armstrong. There is something there, but it's make or break.
He's best at stretch. I went to Derby away last year, and he had 2 one-on-ones within the first 20 minutes, and they off the lines, and we
deserved to win that game. Yeah, we should have been out of sight in the first half hour.
I'm not sure we deserved to win it, because they massacred us for 65 minutes because Pring was isolated at left back.
Sorry, we started well enough, and we could have put ourselves in a winnable position.
I couldn't believe the game that. The 65 minutes I've watched after the first 25 minutes, where I thought we played quite well against Derby away. and then we went to Blackburn and lost 3-0. God, that was a horrible week. Derby followed by Blackburn. But I think with Saints, where he's at his best is running into the channels. You know, this close link-up play is not him. He needs to run into the channels. You give him strength, give him... and there's an energy and a power to him, but God, he's raw, isn't he? I mean, you look at him, you could see... They look at him and they think, oh, Semenyo type, but he's not a Semenyo, is he? He's not a Semenyo in any shape or forms. And I'm sure when they looked at the data on him and they looked at his potential and all the rest of it, they thought he could be, you know, we could develop this man. I don't see it, unfortunately. But I think he'll be more useful next season than he was last season.
All right. One player we need to talk about, and my views are sort of well known, so I'll give my opinion last. Dave reminded me just on the private chat to bring it up, so we come to Tom to get his view. Twiney, good old Twiney. I was really hoping that Liam Manning would want to bring Twiney into the Carrow Road fold, but he hasn't. He's shopping in a different market. He did show more energy yesterday. I thought he had a trademark free kick scenario. When you look at, and again, I think we've done the game now, but you look at a couple of players that did get some minutes yesterday, although in Stokes' case, not worthy of the name. I just didn't get that late substitution. But Stokes and Murphy, and then Bird and Twine and Mehmeti, if you take that little collective, they're the ones that, you know, are competing for that creative, attacking your midfield, whatever you call it. If you don't play with a winger or you don't play with a second big striker. What were your thoughts on Twine yesterday and your thoughts on Twine in general since he came here for the princely sum of 3.7 million?
Yeah, I'd say last season, obviously his free kick goals were amazing, and he is genuinely one of the best dead ball takers in world football. I don't think that's deniable, but I think he could have offered a lot more from open play last season. And I don't know if that was down to, there may have been an injury involved as well. He might just not have been at peak physical condition last year. And I just don't think he was played in a good position and told to do the right things by Liam Manning that suited him. But I thought he was really good yesterday. He was one of our best players yesterday, in my opinion. And for the second goal, his touchdown of the ball when he ran in behind, look, that was really tidy. He was good for that goal.
Okay. Dave, your thoughts on Twine?
I think the position will be an interesting one, and his time will really be told as teams adjust to Struberbull. Because what you saw yesterday is when teams back off and he's got space, he was extremely effective and he looked dangerous. But as teams push up a bit and deny that space and kind of force you to go in behind, that's when he's going to struggle because he lacks the pace to necessarily be in that chaotic way. I can see him starting the season promisingly, but there are so many players knocking on the door for that position that he's going to have to keep up those performances. It's not going to be like, I say, last season where it was, well, we've got Murphy, but we're not sure. You know, Stokes is going to want game time. Bird is going to be knocking on the door. And there's a lot of competition.
And Murphy, Dave, because Murphy's here on a decent wage. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean he should be in the team. But Neil, your thoughts on
Twine to me looks fitter.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Whether that's an injury or just his general level of fitness, he's getting around the pitch more.
Yeah.
He falls into certain traps. There was about 3 or 4 times yesterday where he's running down the centre of the goal and you think, are you going to have a shot on the run? And he slows down to try and pick up. Slows down.
Try and buy the foul.
Does his usual.
Stick his arse
out, trying to buy the foul in that situation in the centre, looking for the free kick. And you think, God, old habits die hard a little bit in relation to it. And you're just like, you're looking for more from him in that situation. I think if he's going to find himself, he's got a decent shot on him. On the run, when you see Watford away last season when he hit the post, amazing shot, wasn't it? In relation to it, he just needs to trust his instincts a little bit more. When he gets space, time and space, a little bit wacky, sometimes wants an extra 1 touch, 2 touch, or I'll look for a dead ball. And I think in the Championship, in lower leagues, in League 1, League 2, you can get away with that. You can look like the absolute Messi of League 1, League 2. Championship is so much different game.
Can you see a scenario? John Allison makes a very interesting...
I was just going to bring up that point, Dave. Go on, you mentioned it now. Yeah.
Sykes playing in that position and McCrorie out on the right. Do you think that could be something effective under Struber's chaotic theory of having that pace, because he knows where the goal is. He's got the pace. And you could almost argue that Sykes could be very effective in that slightly inside role, because it's not really a number 10. It's about getting forward. It's about getting beyond. And Twine's instinct is to drop short.
Sykes has got an energy and a passion and intensity in relation to it. I mean, he's obviously been coming back from injury at the end of last season and back into it. The interesting thing about Sykes, Dave, is that he's on his option yet, and we still haven't organised a contract with him. And he's the type of guy, I would imagine, that someone comes in for him with an acceptable offer, offering him a decent 3-year contract,
he'd be gone.
One way to really knock off a player is he's on a much lower wage than he should be, really, coming from Oxford on a free. And we've exercised that option and made him play for another season on that low wage. And he wants a significantly bigger wage. He turned into an established championship player, Republic of Ireland international. He deserves a better contract than what.
So that's a little bit of a shitty thing to do then.
It is.
In the circumstances when you look at the
taking up an option year on him. Who knows what's gone on behind the scenes? I know that it's not been the easiest negotiations with him because, you know, he views himself in one way, and what's clear from the Naki Wells interview and other interviews, the Tommy Conways of this world, our contract negotiations aren't always the best, put it that way. I think there's room for a better negotiation, and hopefully moving forward, we can be a little bit more professional and a little bit better with negotiation. Because we shouldn't
of so-called certain person. No coincidence, maybe, that, as somebody pointed out, Rob Newman was at the game yesterday.
But he lives locally and he comes to games anyway, so I wouldn't read too much into that. I mean, we've done Tinian in the forums to death. I mean, ultimately, his wings have been clipped. He's in a much reduced role, I would say. He's not as present, and I would imagine he's not the person necessarily leading contract negotiations.
Well, interesting and Tom's just pointed out the fact, interesting in the new setup that there is at Ashton Gate with Tom as chief exec. So we've moved to a slightly more conventional structure, dare I say it, that the technical director now reports into the chief executive, who's Tom, who is an accountant. As an accountant myself, then you apply a bit more objectivity to it than subjectivity, you know. And
well, what's interesting about that, before we just move on, obviously it's only about a year, 18 months ago that John Lansdowne gave that talk about how we don't need a chief executive and all the rest of it. He says it's really great to have the team that we do and to have the. So, John, there's confirmation bias sometimes. Sometimes you need those people to tell you how it is, you know, or else you get into it. And you'd almost be at the club now saying, what's changed? What's changed that 18 months later, after you gave this statement out saying, we don't need a CEO. Why do you feel that you now need a CEO?
Yeah,
that would be interesting.
No, that is an interesting point. Okay, well, one other player just to finish with, Tom Mehmeti. He fell off a cliff in terms of his appearances in the second half of the season. Do you think that might explain why he's being a little bit hesitant in terms of giving City the commitment that they appear to want to give to him?
I don't know if I should share this. I don't think it's Mehmeti, which is the reason he's not signing a contract. That's what I'll say. There might be an intermediary in there.
No, we're talking about an agent. No, that's you've heard that as well. And I mean, agents, Dave, you know, they've just got their interests at heart all the time, haven't they?
Well, they've got their interest, they've got their clients' interest at heart. You know, players don't tend to deal with their own stuff. And you have to remember, he started last season and you get to the second half and he's barely playing. And some of that's on him, some of that's on the formation not suiting him. But he wasn't the main man. And why would you want to stay if you're not the guy? You want to go and look at other things. And to then come around and say, oh yeah, we want to sign you, for him, it's like, well, hold off a minute. I'll back myself to play well, and I'll see what options I've got on the table later. You know, players in their last season, you know, there's risk for them. If you get injured, obviously there's a risk element, but why would you sign a long-term contract? You back yourself to play well. And for a lot of players nowadays, you go in free agent, you get a lot of offers on the table.
The other thing I'd say, just picking up on Tom's point as well, you know, where you've got to be objective when you're doing contract negotiations and everything. You've got to take personalities away from it. There have been some people, we've probably said it on the podcast last season, that, you know, in many people's eyes, that as an agent, Danny Coles is the devil incarnate, that he's causing a lot of disruption. And, you know, I'm told that he was a recent player who has re-signed a new contract, had him as an agent, and there was no difficulty with relationship with Danny Coles. So I think the relationship with Danny Coles is not a club relationship with Danny Coles. It is about individuals there.
I think with regards to all of these players that are out of contract, Manning, we've spoken about Manning. I'm not going to talk about Manning now, but I think he wasn't great with players. I don't think, in relation to it. He alienated a lot of players in the way that he did. I don't think he necessarily engaged. He worked for some players and got the maximum out of other players. Rob Atkinson, I know.
Didn't want to come back, did he?
Well, I'm not going to mention who, but Rob told my friend directly, him and Manning hated one another. That was an awful, awful relationship with Manning and Atkinson, to the extent that he felt he had to go away to get minutes. He wasn't going to sign a contract. He thought he was gone. Under Manning, he would have been gone. Manning goes, week later, he signs a 3-year contract.
But why?
You know, and it might be the same with
the red list comes down in workplace environments, though, doesn't it? Because you look and you think, well, Rob seems an unassuming chap, and so does Manning. Why do they hate each other?
But we've got to a stage where we're going into this season, as Dave said, with so many players, there's uncertainty over the Roberts, Cornick. Tanner and Pring signed that. So Roberts, Cornick, Sykes, Viner, Max O'Leary. A load of these players that, you know, are in your starting 18 that are out of contract. And that's not a normal Bristol City scenario, really. We might have one or two. Not all of these people going into the season.
I tell you what, there's one thing you could say about them being out of contract, is that they're going to be playing for a contract, be that with us or with somebody else. You know, because if you're Harry Cornick, right, who is literally, you know, just there taking his money, right?
But here's the rub. If they play really, really well, it's with someone else. If they play decent, it's with us. If they play poorly, it's below us. We won't get the best version of them next
But if
season.
they do really, really well, then we as a club will do really, really well, and we will be in the playoffs. We repeat what we did this season, because contrary to what people think, I still think it was an anomaly. We finished sixth, but I think this points thing is what means stuff to me. I mean, Tom, what's your view? I mean, next season we could get 73 points, which is an 8% improvement. We could finish in eighth. I mean, are we wrong to deride? Am I wrong to deride the fact that we finished sixth, and we should look at it that we finished sixth and don't be so critical? What do you think, Tom? We've not asked you this before.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I think you have to, the finishing position last year, you have to take in context the rest of the league. And I think last season, the championship, outside of the teams that finished in the playoffs, not us, was probably one of the weakest it's been in a long time, I would say. And it was that season where I think if we had a chance to get playoffs or anything, it was that year. It probably suggests why we bought 2 strikers in the summer as well. So I think, yeah, context of league sort of comes into it. And this season, the league is a lot tougher. Like those sort of mid-table playoff contention teams, I mean, even Wrexham and Birmingham have probably put themselves into contention now with the signings they've made. I think they've all strengthened. I mean, you look at, I saw a tweet of the Millwall starting 11, and I think they're probably almost on par with us in terms of players they've got on paper now.
Yeah. No, that's interesting.
The difference is for us, I look at the side, and whereas the other teams are strengthening, we're still a playoff side. We're still a good side. Let's not do ourselves down here. We're still a decent side in relation to it. But we've got so much uncertainty about our squad moving forward. We've got players that are linked elsewhere. We've got players out of contract at the end of the season. We're going into this season under a new manager with a playing squad with so much uncertainty about it. Are they going to be here at the end of the window? It's entirely theoretical, but maybe Mehmeti, Sykes, Knight all go before the end of August. You know, if you're not going to agree a contract with them, you've got players there that have got a value, X amount of value. If you get an offer from them, you've got decisions making. So the City squad going into the season on paper, great. I think we're a little bit stronger on paper than we were last year. But actually, in reality, we're not at that. We're got a false sort of base to us, I think, because there is so much uncertainty over so many players in the squad.
Yeah, I think if you
Tom, you first, then you, Dave. Tom, far away.
Sorry, Dave. I just had a thought. If you're put yourself in a position of as a Bristol City footballer who may be one of those that is out of contract, you go into your workplace every day. They're not naive to the fact that loads of those players are out of contract next season as well. You're gonna, I don't know. It just feels a little bit unsettled, doesn't it? I mean, if that was your office and your team around you, like the big players in your team, they were potentially talking to other companies, etc., and you knew about that, you'd feel a little bit, I don't know, just uneasy about going to work every day, wouldn't you?
Dave?
I just had a question for you guys. I'm just going to ask you 4 clubs and just see what you think of higher or lower than us at the end of the season, where you think they'll finish.
Bruce Forsyth. Here we go.
Just four random ones, shall we say?
Go on.
Number 1, Wrexham. Finish higher or lower than us?
Go on, you go first. Do Tom, Neil, and then I'll go. So you first, Tom.
Tom, Wrexham.
I'm going to say just lower than us, just a bit lower, I reckon.
Mr. B?
Neil.
Higher. I think they'll get to January. I think that Wrexham 2-3 weeks ago, I thought mid-table. They've started kicking on and signing some players. They'll do it before the end of August, and then I think they'll strengthen again in January. So higher.
Surprisingly, I'm going to go with what Tom said. I think lower, because I just think, I don't know what I think. I'm going to say lower. Next, Dave.
Okay, next one. West Brom.
Who's
Tom,
that
you
to,
go.
Dave?
Tom, you just go the same as you did. Tom.
Yeah, same order.
Tom.
Seeing as I said Wrexham lower, I have to say West Brom lower in that case then. I think Wrexham are better than West Brom, would be my view.
Higher.
I'll say higher. Interesting, Gary Hours, who's coming on. I'm doing a preview with Gary Hours and Ellie Jones and one other on Tuesday. Gary has been with West Brom in the summer at their summer training camp, and he said they look pretty sharp. But just because it's West Brom, is it Ryan Mason who's their manager? He said, I don't know what Gary's connection is there. Somebody said, you said Gary's doing his badges as well. So
he's been doing his badges for a while. He's looking to get back into coaching.
Why he's out there, but I would say West Brom higher than us, Steve.
Next one, totally random choice, Norwich.
I think they'll be higher, but I think Manning's got a real job on his hands to bed in all of those new players. And if someone was saying he wasn't necessarily the best man manager at Bristol City, I think that might be his undoing at Norwich, I've got to say.
Yeah, interesting one. I think higher, but I'll tell you what, last year they were one of the most entertaining teams I saw at Ashton Gate with their attacking, and I know that their defending was useless, but they have a certain style and swagger to them last year. If Manning introduces the horseshoe and this kind of negative type way and it doesn't work out, I think there's a crowd there that could easily hold on a minute, this isn't what we enjoy, but higher.
Okay, my view is I totally agree with Neil. I think Norwich are a bit like Tottenham. They're one of those clubs that over the 50-odd years that I've been supporting City, you've always, when Norwich have come to Ashton Gate, you've not thought boring Norwich, like you might have thought boring Borough or Burnley even for that matter. Manning ball won't go down well. He's got a very powerful chief executive there with that napper who gave pretty short thrift to Thorup. And I think if Manning's not in the top 6, he won't be here this time next year. So the biggest bit for me is that I hope they finish below us, and I hope we give them a damn good stuffing, because I think he's left, even though he got us to the playoffs, I think he's left this club in a bit of a mess, partly for reasons that Thomas.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because the last club will be quite reflective about how you feel we've moved on. Preston. Tom.
I think they're probably below us, but I think they're better than they were last season, definitely. I think they've done all right. Yeah,
I'd say below, but it's quintessential what we've been talking about, that they feel on paper stronger. If you were Struber now, you're kind of dealing with half of your squad being out of contract at the end of the season, and you're going into it with a lot of uncertainty and no money to actually make some changes to the squad. So Bristol City feel like they're kind of running on half empty a little bit as a squad. If Struber ball works, great. If it doesn't, I don't think we've got much to actually change the scenario or add to the situation. So it'll be an interesting year ahead. I think it feels a year of change. I think we feel mid-table year of change.
I think it's quite worrying, really. You've made me feel worried now with all the players being out of contract. And if you look at Gerhard Struber's track record, he doesn't hang around places particularly long.
No.
Yeah, the maximum number of games he's had in charge of a club is 67. I'll stand corrected on that. And my concern is, let's say we have a mediocre season or a poor season and we finish something like 16th or something like that. So the players, and, is he going to want to hang around? Because he was looking, he said he was looking for a bit of a break and we came to him. Yeah. I hope he does well. And as we said on the previous pod, he's got the fan base. He's got the fan base behind him. Okay, I think we've had a good session this morning. We've overrun. Any final thoughts from you, Tom, going into the game next week against Sheffield United? What are your thoughts on that? And what are your plans? What are your plans for Robin's Nest as well? Because I love your graphics and your content and everything like that. What's the goal?
I don't really know what the goal is, to be honest. I just like making and content and talking about Bristol City. And it's been a pleasure to come on and meet you guys this morning. Thank you so much for having me on. I think the one thing that worries me about Struber ball is I think if it doesn't go well, we could get thrashed. Like, I think we are capable of that happening to us at Sheffield United. So I'm positive that we can show a good account of ourselves. But I am worried if things don't go away, we could get some drubbins this season, to be honest.
Okay, Dave, your final thoughts?
I'm very optimistic, and that's the worst part. In principle, I'm going to see a lot of football that I really enjoy. So it's like, if it doesn't go well, I'm going to have to question my whole football sanity. It's like the way I like football is very much on the line. It's chaos involved. It's looking to attack at every opportunity. I don't imagine at Ashton Gate you're going to hear, get it forward too often. And those people, I'm not the person who would say that, but it's like, come on, get on with it. If it doesn't go well, those people are like, oh, so I was wrong all along. So I really need it to go well this season just to make it feel like, you know what, the kind of football I like does have sense in the world. So I feel a bit of internal pressure in that way, but I'm very positive for the season, I have to say.
Neil, are you...
I have no idea whether it's going to work or not.
No.
Absolutely no idea. I mean, it could either be, I think we could swing between 3-4-0 wins, 3-4 win losses.
Yeah.
And it's slightly... When you're talking about chaos and lack of control, it's such an extreme opposite to 18 months under Manning.
And even Pearson in that respect.
It was all about control with Pearson, with Manning, and now we're going to this. Do we have the players to do it? I don't know. He reminds me a little bit of Cottrell.
And we all know.
In terms of, he's a passionate guy. If he goes to that board, if he goes to the Lansdowns and starts going around, that's that type of combustible scenario in relation to it. So we'll wait and see.
I mean, we all know. You just mentioned Steve Cottrell. We all know how it started. His first complete season in charge was that.
We all thought we would have the momentum coming through League One. We had a difficult pre-season with regards to the transfers coming in and out, and then Fredericks came in, and then Fredericks went out, and all the rest of it. And I don't think any of us saw us being in the bottom three come sort of Christmas.
But we started that promotion campaign at Bramall Lane with that hot sunny day and a famous win. One thing I'll say just before we wrap up, it is the 50th anniversary of the promotion season. Right, 75-76 when we made it to the top flight, and by sheer coincidence, the dates that matches fall are a mirror of what we're going to have this season. So in 75-76, the season started as it always did back then, third week in August. It began on the 16th of August. So the day we played Charlton Athletic, our first home game, 50 years prior to that, we started a game against Bolton, first home game of the season. It was 10,500 people at Ashton Gate. That was after they just missed out on the playoffs in the previous season. And they started off with a 1-0 win. Jerry Sweeney with a 62nd minute penalty. The lineup that day, Cashley, Sweeney, Drysdale, Gow, Collier, Merrick, Tainton, Ritchie, Mann, Cheesley, and Brolly. And this is what they said about the game. A poor City performance brings an unlikely win thanks to a twice-taken penalty following the upending of Man. After referee rules that Sweeney's save first kick should be retaken due to Tony Dunn, I think he used to be United, encroachment. City's fullback takes full advantage of his second chance. That was on the 16th. By the 30th of August, right, we played 5 league games. Yeah, that was quite an intense start to the season. Yeah, beat Sunderland at home on the Tuesday night, lost at Hull away. Another midweek game, lost away at Southampton. So we went win-win, lose-lose, draw against Bristol Rovers on Bank Holiday Monday, I think that was, or something like that. But there we go, guys. Tom, great to have you. Sorry, Dave, go on.
It's time that in 30 years from now, Tom will be on the Robin's Nest. You will be here doing this, and we get to talk about this, having lived a moment like this. One day.
No, 30 years from time, 30 years now, I'm bloody 70 in March, for goodness sake. You know, I know.
You'll still be here.
I know I'm not going to see as many games as I've already seen. But, Tom, great to have you on for the first time. And hopefully, we'll have you on again more.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Dave, great to have you on as always, and you as well, Neil. I'm doing a preview season, as I say, on Tuesday night, and then we'll be doing our review of the game at Bramall Lane on Sunday morning. But everybody, thank you very much for tuning in today, and